Last week we showed you the mess we discovered in our ball works.
Probably, I don't know, 8 inches, 6 inches.
And this week we start fixing it. I'm Taryn, this is Logan, and this is Max. Our life rarely goes as planned, and this story is no different. But we are determined to rebuild our beautiful steel boat, even stronger than she was before. And we're bringing you along with us. Alright, so before we get started this morning, I just wanted to show you guys the interior right now with everything torn out. So we've torn out pretty much all that we need to tear out before we can actually start cutting the deck apart on the starboard side. And the starboard side's the second side, so yeah, it's a lot. Alright, so coming in here first off, you can see on this side here, the settee is pretty much torn apart. Those panels are going to be able to go back on because Logan was able to take them off in one piece, but the trim is pretty much destroyed. In here we've got the spray foam taken off, both on the hull and on the deck above. There's holes taped, that's from the jib track. And then on the other side, so on the starboard side, we have this hanging locker, all the foam's out of that, back's cut off of it. And then in the cabin, which I'm going to move the light so you guys can see better, but the cabin is pretty much all torn apart. So those bright yellow spots, that's how big the holes were through the deck, and you can see that the rust started to bleed down the hull a bit, as well as like through more of the decking. And it came all the way down here, and we had rust in the bilge, actually from the deck. So, at least that was one mystery solved, but yeah, those holes are no joke. It's a good thing we're dealing with them now, and look at all that rust. Rust is also no joke. It's mostly surface rust. It's not going to have to be replaced, but it is going to have to be repainted for sure. And then back into the main cabin. This is our chart table here, and everything behind the chart table has been pulled out. That's our electrical cabinets there. All the foam's been taken out of there. Logan took that whole backing plate out. There was not a backing plate, it was just wood. That whole piece of plywood came out. It was covering all of that. Into the galley. All inside the galley cabinets, we had to do the same thing. Take all the backing off and take off the spray foam. We couldn't get all that wood out that's on the, those are actually the backing plates, the support for all the stanchions, or the shrouds, sorry. These are the support for all the shrouds. Couldn't even get the wood out of them. That's how that looks. The cabinet that had the fridge in it, same way. So this is how much spray foam is going to have to go back in. Everything that you see that's black is going to have to be covered in spray foam. And then in the head, this is probably the worst of all the rooms for destruction. So that, where all of that is right there, that used to be cabinetry. We've got the head there, and above it used to be some awesome cabinets. They had to be completely pulled off in order to get in there to take the styrofoam or the spray foam and the plywood out. I'm not sure what we're going to do there. But our shower was already having issues, and it now is pretty much completely destroyed. So that's the floor. We're going to have to redo all this with the sole, my bad. Most of that spray foam stayed, but then we took out a bunch of it. The tape up there is where the biggest hole is. So that's fun. Right there. This is going to be the hardest project for sure, is figuring out what to do with the head. We have the V-berth, which is also completely torn apart, but this is going to be a lot easier to put back together than the head. It's mostly just, it's like wider open spaces, so it's easy to just kind of quickly spray foam and then throw some plywood back on. The bed itself is like come off in easy pieces to put back together, so that won't be huge. But we have this cabinet in the corner, or did. That's another chart table. Not sure why that's there. We're probably going to tear that out. And there was cabinets there that are also completely gone. So what we're probably going to do is move this wall here. We're going to move it a few inches back, and we're going to actually extend the bed and then turn this into a hanging wet locker, because it's just kind of a useless space right now and we need more hanging space. And then they have one more hanging locker, which, same deal. You can see the replacement plates there. All of that wood and spray foam had to come out. So, yep. She's a mess right now, that's for sure. But the one good thing about all of this, I guess, is that we can actually redesign quite a bit of the boat to suit our needs better, which isn't the worst thing. It's going to take a lot of time and effort, and I'm not sure how long it will actually take to get it done, but hopefully we can do that. We can, like, sleeping in the V-berth here, we've had issues because Logan and I are both 5'10", which is, I don't know, 176 centimeters or something. And it's just too short for us. So we can move that wall aft a little bit and actually get some more length in the bed. Gonna replace the cushions and stuff and change the shape of it a little bit so that it works for our needs better. And same with the cabinetry in here. So yeah, it sucks to have to tear so much out and to see such a beautiful boat in pieces, but it's gonna be great when we can actually use it as a more functional boat. Yeah, but anyway, I got to get to taping and then to grinding the lip off the outside of the starboard side so that we can actually start cutting out the starboard deck and getting it replaced and moving on with this Ballworks project. Instead of setting up scaffolding that we didn't have in order to walk along the starboard side of the boat, we decided to use Logan's uncle's man lift. You may also know it as a cherry picker or a zoom boom. Regardless of what you call it, it's used to get a person up into the air to do a job, and it was perfect for this job. Even though Logan had to, of course, get it running before anyone could use it. The welder also had to be loaded into the man lift in order for us to get the work done because there isn't enough room for it to roll on the deck. That's it for now.
Now I can cut right from here.
Nice. And then the replacement work began. What you doing, Maxer Moo?
Are you the good boy?
Are you the good boy? He's like, I am not. I am out of here. After learning from the port side, we decided to replace all of the deck which had been inside the bulwarks on the starboard side. I'm not going into a ton of detail on technique in this video because we already covered that in Chapter 5, Episode 27. The link is in the top right corner if you would like to check that out. Yeah, it looks pretty thick actually compared to the other side.
Yeah. But, as you can see, it has lost a bit.
Oh yeah, for sure. we just got these ceramic tiles, and the purpose of them is to create a backing below where we're welding, and they're theoretically supposed to, it's like a backing plate behind your weld so that the gas as well as the metal stays where you're trying to weld and actually creates like a weld on both sides by doing that. So we just bought these. It's the first time using them. They also hopefully will stop the paint from burning so that we don't have to do as much cleaning before we put the weld in. So that's what we're hoping for anyway. We're going to test them. Yeah, and it was a naval architect from the Netherlands who gave us this tip, Niels. So thanks, Niels.
And this specific style is for doing butt joints. So basically your join would go this way. You'd stick this up against the join, and as you weld, this channel here fills with gas from the nozzle from your welder, and back shields the weld. So then this will all fill with weld as well.
As is the theory. And these,
that is the theory.
The white stuff on the side is actually like the sticky tape to tape it up.
It's a it's like an aluminized tape. So yeah, we're gonna give it a try. Obviously we have slightly different widths and stuff, and these aren't all, like, it's not gonna be perfect, so we're gonna give it a try, and hopefully it's gonna help the majority of this, and it should really help a lot with the cleanup afterwards, so that we're not having to grind inside the boat
and hopefully minimize the cleanup before welding as well.
Yeah, so that we don't have to take all of the paint off, because it's tedious.
And yeah, difficult in small spaces. Once the replacement pieces were tacked into place, the backing tiles were put on. Hard to tell, but it definitely like flattened out the welds that came through and stopped most of it from exploding everywhere. So like those spots that are really proud, if that hadn't been there, would have ended up in big globs in a hole, so that's nice. That was where there wasn't a tile, and that's what would have happened on those other spots if there hadn't been a tile. So yeah, so it definitely looks better than it did without that on there. I would say successful for the most part. And then it was on to more pieces. Alright, so you just cut out the worst chunk so far, right? Or is that the worst chunk of all?
No, this is just the worst chunk of the raised part of the back deck. And it basically is like, there's nothing left there.
Can you turn it towards the camera so we can see all the holes? Yeah, that is just brutal. It's really bad. It's so many holes, it's just insane.
This was on the deck side, so you can see how thick it is right on the edge.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the full thickness.
Yeah.
It dips down like barely right here. And then this was on the hull side. These are the tack welds on the inside.
Yeah.
And like there was nothing right there.
Brutal.
Like it's just right through. But it hasn't really rusted down very, like below the deck. That's just rust staining. It's not actual rust.
There's some rust up here.
Like up on the top.
Yeah.
So like when the boat's heeled over, I guess whatever liquid was in here, condensation or fluid film or whatever, was running back towards the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some rust up top there, but it's not
very much.
No. It's good to catch it now because it actually hasn't taken any thickness away from the steel. But
maybe a millimeter.
I don't even think that. Like there's one little patch there where which I chipped off some flakes, but
yeah,
other than that it's like just bubbling paint.
Mm-hmm.
So happy we're catching this now because it could have been far worse.
Definitely. We used 2 rows of backing plates for each patch so that each weld was shielded. They fit pretty perfectly under the inside weld and not as well on the outside, but they still made a big difference. It cost us about $100 for a box of them. We saved the tiles and bought a new roll of aluminized tape so we could reuse them once we ran out of fresh strips. This is what the tiles look like after being used.
WCB approved.
For any of you non-Canadians out there, WCB is Workers' Compensation Board. Luckily, we don't answer to them because, you know, we're not getting paid for this, so they don't care.
We're going to have to wedge these up
Yeah.
all the way along.
Yeah, the deck's already sunken.
Yeah, because as like I was grinding into here, you can see like the weld is totally dissolved.
Really, hey?
It's eaten right through and I can see the deck to hull joint.
Crazy.
So we'll have to cut right back to that, grind that right back to the hull, and redo the whole thing. Yeah, like that's just nuts.
Good to go?
Good to go. That's a big gap. Yeah.
So right now, Logan is essentially making a ladder of wood to push the deck back up where it has sunken down with the rot. So essentially, the purpose of these ladders is to bring the deck back up because we want the deck to be flush, obviously. The easiest way to do that is to use chunks of wood and like hammer them in so that they push the deck back up flush. So the hard part is just getting the wood the right length because every single one of these little panels and cabinets needs a different height of wood. We cut out piece after piece after piece of holy metal. Alright, so you can see the light coming through all those holes. Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's still some bad spots up there too.
Yeah.
This is gonna be fun. Yeah, it's really...
It's not good.
Really bad.
right in the electrical closet. You see that there? That's where the holes are. And this is how tight it is. I can get like an arm in there, but it's so narrow. My whole body does not like to fit in there, so yep. Alright, so we're into the head. This is the last of the big patches that routed through. You can see there. Crazy. See that? Just nuts. It's a good thing we replaced that, because Jeebus. And it's so thin too. It's like paper thin in some places. Not a good scene. The worst of it. That's the worst chunks in the deck, all replaced.
Yeah, everything that's just like riddled with holes has been replaced. And we're moving along pretty good. We got 3 patches in today.
Yay.
So this is what the holiest of the pieces that were taken out looked like. Not much metal left on quite a few places.
Well, it's the last day in August, and we are on to the last 3 patches in the deck. We're going to try to get them finished today, but it's already 2 o'clock, so we're probably not going to get them finished. But we're going to try really hard to be done the deck by the end of August, which is in a few hours. This side has gone so much faster because we finally have like a system down that works, which is really exciting. And it's going to be even more exciting to actually have it done. Can't wait. Alright guys, look at this. You see this? Probably not. You probably can't because it's dark out because we're finishing at like 9 o'clock, but guess what? Logan, tell him.
That's it. All of the deck plates have been replaced. So we're done replacing deck plates.
Yay! That's been a heck of a ride.
It's been a lot.
Join us next week as we get on with replacing the bulwarks. And if you want to know what we are up to in real time, we would love to have you over on Patreon with us. See you next week.